I have 3 siblings between the ages of 10 and 18. I'm the oldest, fourth at 25. Every year on every single one of our birthday, we are expected to celebrate my mom as well. We've done it since we were little. It was taught to me as giving thanks for carrying plus giving birth to us. Which I'm all for. I am grateful as we wouldn't be here without her. The issue is though, it becomes less of our birthday and more so an anniversary for the day our mom gave birth. Every year on our birthday our mom gets gifts too. As we got older, we're now expected to get her monetary gifts, and not cards, or homemade stuff. Just recently was my birthday and I was gifted some much needed clothes and dishware for my new apartment. My dad however got my mom a new MacBook. My siblings all got her gifts too. My youngest brother isn't expected to give much, but my 16-year-old sister and 18-year-old second brother work so they're expected to give gifts too. My sister pulled me aside before my birthday and said she was sorry she couldn't get me much. She got me a sweater, I love it, and that she wanted to get me more but our mom was pressuring her to get a certain necklace for our mom. Apparently my mom had been dropping hints for months and my sister was worried our mom would be upset and feel underappreciated if she didn't get it. I asked how much it was, and my sister said it was $300. I honestly lost it on our mom and chewed into her later that afternoon when my mom opened her gifts after me. I think she's ridiculous for even wanting my sister to spend so much on a gift. Mom started crying and my dad kicked me out. Mom won't answer calls but my aunt, mom's sister, called and said I was a puss for not respecting my mother and that I'm a selfish, narcissist child for being jealous of the gifts mom got. I thought I was in the right, but now I don't know. It's been over 2 weeks and mom won't answer my calls. She's been posting on Facebook inspiration quotes about letting go of the toxicity in your life, how blood doesn't equal family, and how hard it is to be a mother. Several family members, aunt, grandma, uncle, and 2 of my cousins, are replying to the posts and are very obviously directing vague comments at me about being a horrible daughter. I'd quit to think now because of how many people are on her side skeptical. Edit. Thank you for all your feedback. I think it's really eye-opening and I'm going to try to find a therapist so I can unload all this fuckery. Also, thank you for the awards but you don't have to. If you'd feel inclined, I think it would be pretty cool to donate it instead to a cool charity of your choice instead. The title sounds bad but hear me out. My stepson Rowan, 23, just got engaged to his fiancée. She comes from a highly conservative family and they both won't live together till after marriage. They're both on great terms and I have to say her parents are a bit much. So the engagement party was held at a restaurant. I drove my wife, Rowan and his best friend Jack there because Rowan's car needed some work. Things went quite well, party ended and everyone went home. On the way back, I had to stop by the store so I could grab something for our 16-year-old son. Rowan, Jack and I waited in the car. Rowan and Jack kept laughing then this young lady walked towards us cause her car was parked next to mine in the parking lot. Rowan kept trying to speak to her while she was trying to load her stuff in the car. He and Jack kept throwing words at her and she seemed annoyed. Jack then said hey, he just wants to look at that then Rowan said let me see it jiggle, baby. I was appalled. I told them both to knock it off but then Rowan sarcastically replied relax, I was just giving her a compliment, bet she don't get many of those often. The lady got in her car and I started arguing with him about his behavior and shamed him for acting like this on his own engagement night. He argued back saying something about my car and I lost it. I told him to get out immediately. Jack got involved so I kicked him out too. My wife got back and started engaging in the argument saying he can't let her son walk home from his engagement party. I replied that her son can't be harassing other women on the way back from his engagement party but she kept defending him. I told her to either stay or get in the car. She did and I drove off. Rowan didn't come home and my wife gave me hell for it. We later found out that he was staying at one of his guy friends' place. From what I understand, he's pissed at me and refusing to see me. My wife said it was my fault. I escalated the situation over some stupid shit boys his age do all the time. I told her he can't do this while in my car but she took it as in I was holding it over his head. She said I should have never made him walk the night his engagement and demanded that I apologize to him. Was I a for kicking him and his friend out of the car on his engagement night? Ever since I got out of the hospital for chronic problems, my husband has been introducing me to some games every evening. One game used to be about doing things while my eyes are blindfolded, involving puzzles, Rubik's Cube, shaped objects, etc. We'd take turns to do it just for entertainment. Just a couple of days ago, he's been trying to get me to sign papers while wearing a blindfold. I refused to do it because he never lets me take a look at what I'm signing, neither before or after. He says that he was just trying to see if I could leave the same signature every time I sign, but I couldn't help feel uncomfortable. I told him I don't want to play this game unless and until he shows me the papers first. He said never mind then and stopped bringing it up. Last night, he tried to convince me to give it a try and even volunteered to go first. I asked if he was going to show me what I was going to sign and he made a face and said no, it's the rules and I should respect them. I refused and he kept on about how I keep acting worried and suspicious for no reason. He said I clearly don't trust him and he was hurt by finding that out now after everything we've been through. We had an argument and I told him to drop it and not bring it up again, period. He was mad despite saying it was no big deal. He was obviously upset with me and kept talking about how I don't trust him and that I was out of line to assume or suspect anything from him like this. I might be paranoid but I couldn't help it. I do think I was taught to him after he stood by my side when my own family didn't even visit. So recently I found out my son Jacob, 15, pulled an incredibly cruel prank on one of the girls I'll call Ashley that's in his friend group. I know this girl, she's been to our house and even attended Jacob's birthday party a month ago. She seemed incredibly sweet if not a bit shy. So when my oldest son Mark, 17, came to me and told me Jacob had asked Ashley out on a date as a prank, I was stunned. I of course asked how he could know this, hoping as any mother would that it wasn't true. But Mark showed me the family tablet we all use, but mostly my sons do, and it seems Jacob forgot to log out of his chatting app, Discord. I read the long series of messages between Jacob and his friends as they mocked Ashley all through this heartless prank. I was speechless. And that's not even getting into how he was talking, like he was some thug and not a 15-year-old living in a gated community. At first I couldn't figure out what to do, or how to proceed. I'll admit that I never once imagined either of my boys would be the type of person to do something like that. But there was no way in hell I was letting this go. So after a day of thought I decided what was going to happen. First things first, he was grounded, for how long I'm not sure. Secondly, I'd gotten Jacob a bike for his birthday but it hadn't arrived until the day previous and I'd planned to give it to him when my parents came to visit since they'd been unable to make his party. But instead of that I showed him I knew about the prank and told him he was grounded, then I made him carry the new bike out of my bedroom closet into the car before driving to Ashley's house, him crying the whole way. I'd called her parents earlier and explained everything and so once we got there I had him carted to their front porch and ring the bell. Then in front of me, Ashley, her parents, and God I had him give a sincere apology and gift her the bike. Even I apologized to her, saying I didn't raise my boy this way and what he did was unforgivable. I also called the parents of the other boys who were a part of this little stunt and they all seemed rightfully horrified by their son's involvement. I felt I'd handled this all as best as I could, and my friends agreed. Though once my parents found out that I'd made Jacob give his birthday gift away they said what I did went too far. I still feel like what I did was right but having my parents more or less dogpile on me like this actually made me wonder if how I handled it was too extreme. Ada here? My wife has a horrible habit that I discovered 2 months ago. We were ordering lunch on the Subway app and I told her to pick the location that has a drive-thru, that way we don't have to go inside and take the baby out of the car just to clip him back in a few minutes later. She told me it's not a big deal to leave the baby in the car to run in and pick it up really fast. I had no idea she ever did this. I told her I was not comfortable with her leaving him in the car alone even for a minute and she told me she's been doing it since he was born and it's always been fine. She told me she does it to pick up food, run into the post office or pharmacy, etc. I was floored. We don't live in a horrible area but it's also not super safe either. I told her to not ever do this again. She told me she never stopped to think about the potential dangers and that she would stop doing it. Well, yesterday as I was driving home from my brother's house I spotted her car at the gas station near our place. It was parked in a spot up front and not a pump, So I figured she stopped in to grab some snacks, which we like to do. I decided to stop and go in and say hi and get some food, and I pulled in and parked next to her. However, when I got there I was furious to find our son in his car seat. The car wasn't even locked. I don't know what came over me, but in that moment I decided to take my son and put him into my car. He's got a car seat in there too. I then drove to the other side of the gas station parking lot and waited for my wife to come out. It took 6 minutes for her to appear. When she saw that he was gone, she looked stunned for a second and then started to frantically look around and cry. I didn't let it go on long. After this I saw her pull her phone out, presumably to call 911, and that's when I pulled my car around to her. I parked, got out and walked around to my son's door, and opened it to show him to her. She looked extremely relieved, but that quickly turned to anger with her asking me why I took him and did that to her. I told her she needed to learn her lesson and she promised to stop leaving him in the car, and that she was extremely irresponsible. It was so easy for me to pull up and take him. No one else at the gas station even noticed. So if he really was taken, there would have been no help and it would have been 100% her fault. She proceeded to call me cruel and psychotic and tried taking our son out of my car into hers. I said no and that I would be driving him home, and I left. She came home not much later but ignored me the rest of the day. She acknowledged me today saying she wanted an apology, and I said absolutely not, and she's the one who should be saying sorry. She's been guilt-tripping me the rest of the day, saying no mother should experience the fear I put her through. Did I go too far? Ada? Edit. Please check comments for an update. I can't add it here due to character limit. I'm a nurse and have been working more hours for the past 6 months to be able to save money to fix the ceiling in our house. I've saved up to $8,000 in my account, and since my husband hasn't worked since 2020, I'm trying to balance rent and utilities payments. My husband is a golf enthusiast, and so are his friends. Only difference is that all his friends are well off and they can afford expensive golfing gear and trips. They mentioned wanting to go on a golfing trip next week and invited my husband, but he initially refused. Though, he really wanted to go but complained about how his friends bought fancy golfing gear while all he has is old gear. He asked if I could lend him $6,000 so he could buy a set of golfing clubs, but I refused because $6,000 for a set of clubs is crazy expensive, especially for someone who doesn't work. He got upset and accused me of holding his employment over his head when he couldn't help it. Anyway, I thought we were over this argument, but I had discovered that he had pulled the $6,000 out of my account and purchased the set behind my back. I went home and exploded on him. He swore he'd return the money once he gets back from his trip, but I told him he had no right to take the money and spend it on a set of clubs while the ceiling needs fixing. He said the ceiling doesn't require $6,000 either, but the kid's room was affected too. I demanded that he return the set or pay me the $6,000 right there and then. He told me I was being unfair to him and that he's feeling stuck because his friends can afford to buy whatever, while he's being yelled at for wanting something for himself for once. I told him to get a job and buy himself whatever. He tried to tell me he'll pay me when he finds a job, which is after he gets back from his trip, but I refused. He kept begging me to let him just go on the trip and we'll figure it out later, but I said no. If it wasn't for something as important as the ceiling, I would have maybe waited, but he's saying I'm abusive and controlling of his life. Edit. First of all, I'm getting too many comments. I'm too overwhelmed to respond. People that are suggesting I return the clubs myself, I can't because he never brought them to the house. I've never seen them and I don't know where he's hiding them. I suspect his brother's house, but I'm on really bad terms with him and can't go to his house. So the argument now is just him pushing to get me to stay quiet till he gets back from the trip, but I'm putting my foot down and refusing.